We're going to be using the Pink Cuties Stamp Set. I've stamped those out 4 times using Hickory Smoke Archival ink. I've got my watercolors. We're going to use Reinkers to watercolor. I picked my color palette. I've got some Distress inks in that color palette we're going to use as well. So we're going to get started. I'm going to refresh my little palette here with some colors, and we're going to get started with our watercoloring process. I'm going to start off by watercoloring my little starfish here. We're going to do I'm doing 4 cards, but I'm only going to show you one in this video. I'll show you the other cards at the very end. I started out with that picked raspberry and brought it in, and I'm adding just a little bit of the abandoned coral. I like to do my watercolors where I start in the darkest area and pull that color out with a thirsty brush, meaning I just dip it in my water brush off to the side, or water container off to the side, and I can pat off the rest of it on a paper towel to get it a damp brush where I can pull the colors out. And that's what I'm going to do here with that carved pumpkin. So I've got these all, again, I've stamped all of my images out using Hickory Smoke Archival ink on Canson XL watercolor paper. So we're going to add a little bit of color into his little antennae and his body. I'm using that same carved pumpkin and where I want it to be darkest. I'm going to pull that out to where I want it to go lighter. And we will just pull that out. I'm going to add a second little coat right there so that I can get this pulled out all the way. And I'm going to do the same thing on his little tail right here. And we will move on to the other little parts and pieces. I'm going to add some little rosy cheeks with Kitsch Flamingo and soften that with just a thirsty brush. And then we are going to add some, I believe I used candied apple for this part of his little fin. So I just watered it down really good and pulled it out to the edge. I did forget his little hands on that side, so I had to go back and do those. And then for the rest of his little antenna, I did go back in with the candied apple and pulled it out. But I am going to darken it up a little bit with some of the picked seedless preserves, which is what I'm doing now. I'm adding a little bit of that, softening those cheeks a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and drop in our seedless preserves to make it a little bit darker. It wasn't standing out enough, so I just wanted to make a little bit more contrast to our little antenna. And I'm going to do the same thing to his tail. I'm going to start off by adding candied apple first and pull that out to the edge at the end of the tail. And then I'm going to drop in, while that is still damp, I'm going to drop in the seedless preserve and pull that out as well to add in a little bit more color. We're going to darken up his little tongue, and I'm going to go, there's that seedless preserve. So we're going to pull that out, soften that little edge right there, let those blend together to create a new color. And we will keep going. I had to go back and add a little bit more. So I'm going to go in now and add some to the antenna. I did add candied apple and Kitsch Flamingo to begin with. And then I had to come back and do the seedless preserve because, you know, it all has to be matchy-matchy. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I did use the same color palette for each of the cards, just in different color combinations. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit more to my little starfish. And then I'm going to come in and add the little dots that are a part of the stamps. I'm just going to take a little bit of just concentrated color and put it on there. Here's a look at all of the cards. I've got them all watercolored up. Now we're going to add a focal image. And we're just going to use some stencils for that. I'm going to come in with Villainous Potion on this card. And ink to blend it right around that circle to give it a focal image. And this one we're going to use Seedless Preserves on one side, and I'm using Rusty Hinge on the other. So we're just going to add that. Now this one I set off to the side, and I did let it move. I should have taped it down, but I did not. I'm going to use a little bit of Crackling Campfire and a little bit of the Rusty Hinge on this little circle. And on the last one, we are going to switch it up just a little bit. We're going to go with a more rectangle look. And for this, I use Crackling Campfire for the ink blending. I'm going to tape it to the back so that it does kind of stay in place a little bit better. And then I'm going to come in with that Crackling Campfire at the bottom and Seedless Preserves at the top to tie everything in. This is a great way to create easy focal panels without a lot of work. Now we're going to come in and add in our stamping for our sentiment. So I'm going to stamp everything in VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I'm going to go ahead and this one is your Axolotl Amazing. So I'm going to stamp that twice since it is watercolor paper. I'll move that to the side. Pop in our other sentiment, our other card front. I did I Love You a Latte, a lotta. And then this card is going to be Smile a lotta and like an axolotl. Oh, that's a mouthful. So we're going to stamp that down. I'm going to stamp that twice as well. And then for our last card, we're going to go back to the Your Axolotl Amazing. And I'm going to stamp it up above the sentiment. Now I have 4 quick, easy cards that I can add to card bases in shortly. But we're going to go ahead and embellish them. I'm going to come in with a black gel pen, and I'm coming over all of their eyes so that I can make them stand out a little bit more. And I just use a medium black gel pen to do that. So I'm just going to come over their little eyes. Even the ones that were closed, I went ahead and went over them as well. And then I'm going to come in with a white gel pen and add in some highlights to our little guys. So I'm just strategically placing a few little highlights around the focal images, adding a little here and there to each one of our little cards. We are going to embellish these, but I'm keeping this super simple. So the only embellishments we're doing is the black gel pen, the white gel pen, and a little Stardust Stickles for a little sparkle and shine. All right, we're going to go ahead and add in a few more highlights, and then I'm going to come in with my Stardust Stickles, and I added them to the antennae, the little white, the little flowy part of their tails on most of them, and on some of them I actually added a little glitter to their bodies as well to make them stand out a little bit more, like I did the little, I'm doing the starfish right there. I am going to do their little antenna, flowy parts of their tails, and it's a little bit on their body. Same thing here. With this one, I did add a little bit onto her little body as well while she's taking her little nap. And I did add a few little dots here and there of our Stardust Stickles. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the finishing our little Stardust Stickles. I see I'm going to smush it around a little bit with my fingers. Add some up on this one right up here. And we will add just a few more little dots to fill in little open spaces so it looks like little bubbles coming up on our card. And there is a look at all 4 cards. If you need any of the supplies, I have them all linked and listed in the video description below. I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys, stay crafty. I'll see you right over there.